An alien warship sent a warning to Earth. The human captain sent one back. Best HFY Sci-Fi Stories. The sky above Earth was quiet on the day everything changed. Satellites moved in their normal paths. Space stations sent their usual reports. Nothing seemed wrong. Then, in less than a second, every sensor in the solar system picked up something new. A massive object had appeared just past the orbit of Mars. It had not flown in from deep space over days or weeks. It had simply appeared, as if it had torn a hole in space itself and stepped through. The object was a ship, but it was unlike anything humans had ever built. It was over 40 kilometers long, shaped like a curved blade, black as coal, with lines of purple light running across its hull like veins. It looked like something alive, something ancient, something that had crossed galaxies before humans had learned to walk upright. Within minutes, every space agency on Earth knew about it. Within an hour, every government on the planet knew about it. Within a day, every person with a phone or a television knew about it. The world held its breath. Captain Ethan Cole was on the bridge of the UES Valiant Horizon, the flagship of Earth's small but growing defense fleet, when the alarm came in. He was a tall man in his early 40s, with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too many long nights in space. He had spent 20 years defending human colonies from pirates, asteroid threats, and the occasional rogue AI, but he had never seen anything like this. "Report," he said, standing from his chair. His science officer, Lieutenant Mira Chen, was already pulling up data on the main screen. "Sir, it's real. It's not a sensor glitch. Mass readings say it's over 40 kilometers in length. We've never built anything close to that size. Energy readings are off the chart. Whatever technology powers that ship, we don't understand it." "Where did it come from?" Ethan asked. "That's the strange part," Mira said. "There's no trail, no engine burn, no hyperspace wake that matches anything in our records. It's like it just arrived." Ethan looked at the image on the screen. The alien ship hung silently in space, unmoving, as if it were watching, waiting. "Get me a channel to Earth Command," he said, "now." Within minutes, the leaders of Earth's nations were gathered in emergency session, watching live feeds from orbit. Fighter squadrons were scrambled but held back, waiting for orders. No one wanted to be the one who fired the first shot at something that powerful. No one wanted to find out what would happen if they did. For 6 hours, the alien ship did nothing. It simply sat there, a dark shape against the stars, radiating a strange kind of stillness that made everyone uneasy. Scientists on Earth worked frantically, trying to understand the ship's makeup, its purpose, anything. But the ship gave them nothing to study, except its size and its silence. Then, at exactly 0300 hours Earth Standard Time, the silence broke. Every screen on every ship, every station, every device connected to any network across the solar system flickered at the same moment. Radios crackled. Even old analog systems that should have had no connection to any signal suddenly picked up a transmission. It was as if the message did not care what kind of technology was listening. It found a way into all of it. A voice spoke. It was deep, layered, almost musical, but with an edge like grinding stone. It spoke in perfect English, though no human had taught it. The words were slow and heavy, each one landing like a hammer. "People of Earth, you are known to us. Your world has been observed. Your kind has grown beyond your world, and this growth threatens the order of things beyond your sky. We have come to give you one warning. Submit to the authority of the Kryvex Dominion. Lay down your weapons. Surrender your worlds. Accept our rule, and you will live. Resist, and your species will end. You have one solar cycle to answer. There will be no second warning." The message ended as suddenly as it began. For a long moment, nobody on the Valiant Horizon spoke. Nobody on Earth spoke. Billions of people froze in place, staring at their screens, trying to understand what they had just heard. Ethan felt something cold settle in his chest. He had fought enemies before. He had fought people who wanted resources, territory, or revenge. But this was different. This was an enemy that did not even see humanity as an equal. To them, humans were not a nation to negotiate with. They were a problem to be solved. "Captain," Mira said quietly, "there's a demonstration incoming. Sensors are picking up a weapon charge from the alien ship." Ethan's stomach tightened. "Target?" It's aimed at the old mining outpost on Ceres. Sir, there are still workers there. 43 people. Get them out, Ethan said immediately. Now. Contact anyone in range. But it was already too late. A beam of white light, thin as a needle but brighter than a star, shot out from the alien warship and crossed the distance to Ceres in less than a second. The mining outpost, a station that had taken 12 years to build, simply vanished. No explosion, no debris cloud. It was there, and then it was gone, as if it had never existed at all. On the bridge, nobody moved, nobody breathed. Mira's hands trembled over her console. Confirmed. 43 casualties. The outpost is completely gone. There's nothing left. Not even dust. Ethan closed his eyes for a moment. He thought of the workers on Ceres, ordinary people who had gone to work that day expecting nothing more than another long shift in the cold rock of the asteroid belt. Now they were gone, erased by a weapon so far beyond anything humanity possessed that resistance seemed impossible. Across the world, the mood shifted from fear to something close to despair. World leaders debated in emergency sessions. Some argued for surrender, saying that resistance was suicide, that humanity could not fight something with weapons like that. Others argued that surrender was worse than death, that bowing to an alien empire would mean the end of human freedom forever, even if human bodies survived. Ethan was called to an emergency meeting with Earth's Joint Defense Council, held over secure video link. The faces on the screen were tired, afraid, some close to breaking. General Diane Okoye, the head of Earth's combined military forces, spoke first. Captain Cole, you have more direct combat experience than almost anyone in this fleet. I want your honest assessment. Can we fight this? Ethan thought carefully before answering. He had seen the power of that single beam. He knew that Earth's entire fleet, every ship they had, was nothing compared to even one alien warship of that size. If it came down to a straight fight, humanity would lose, and lose badly. Ma'am, if we try to fight that ship head-on with what we have, we will lose. There's no question about that. Our weapons can't punch through whatever shields protect a vessel that powerful. Our ships are toys next to it, Ethan said. But that doesn't mean we have nothing. Explain, Okoye said. They gave us a deadline. That means they want something from us besides simple destruction. If they only wanted us dead, they wouldn't have bothered with a warning. They would have simply attacked. The fact that they're offering surrender terms means conquest matters to them, not annihilation. That tells me something about how they think, and if we understand how they think, we might find a way to make them reconsider, Ethan said. Some council members shook their heads, unconvinced. Others leaned forward, listening closely. General Okoye studied Ethan for a long moment. You have an idea, she said. It wasn't a question. I do, Ethan admitted. But it's a gamble, a big one. Tell us. Ethan took a slow breath. They sent us a warning, meant to frighten us into submission. They expect fear. They expect us to grovel, or to fight and fail, proving their point that resistance is useless. What they don't expect is confidence. What they don't expect is a species that looks at their threat and refuses to be afraid of it, even while knowing the danger is real. You want to send them a message back, Okoye said slowly. Yes, Ethan said. Not a message of surrender, not a message begging for mercy. A message that tells them exactly what will happen if they push forward with this. A warning of our own. One of the council members, Ambassador Louis Fontaine from the European sector, laughed bitterly. Captain, with respect, that's madness. We have no leverage. We have no fleet that can match theirs. What warning could we possibly give that would mean anything to a power capable of erasing an entire station in a single shot? Ethan met his gaze steadily. The kind of warning that isn't about firepower. It's about resolve. Ambassador, that ship destroyed an outpost of unarmed civilians to scare us. That tells me something important. They needed to make a show of force because words alone weren't enough to guarantee our surrender. A truly unstoppable power doesn't need to prove itself. It simply acts. The fact that they paused, that they gave us a deadline, that they demonstrated their strength instead of immediately wiping us out, tells me they are not as certain of easy victory as they want us to believe. The room was silent for a long moment. Then General Okoye nodded slowly. What do you propose we say? Ethan looked at the star map on the wall screen, at the small blue marker representing Earth, dwarfed by the vast darkness of space around it. He thought about the 43 people lost on Ceres. He thought about every human who had ever looked up at the stars and dreamed instead of feared. "We tell them the truth," Ethan said. "We tell them that Earth does not bow to threats. We tell them that humanity has survived plagues, wars, and disasters that should have ended us 100 times over, and every time, we grew stronger instead of weaker. We tell them that if they come to conquer us, they will find not a broken people begging for mercy, but every single human being, fighting with everything we have, for as long as we have breath to fight. We tell them that a victory over Earth will cost them more than they are willing to pay." Ambassador Fontaine shook his head. "That's not a warning, Captain. That's a declaration of war." "No," Ethan said firmly. "It's a declaration that we choose our own fate. Whatever they decide to do next, they'll do it, knowing exactly what kind of enemy they're dealing with." The council argued for hours after that. Some believed Ethan's plan would guarantee humanity's destruction, provoking an enemy that might have otherwise shown restraint. Others believed that showing weakness now would guarantee an even worse fate, a future of endless submission under an alien boot. In the end, it was General Okoye who made the final call, backed by a slim majority of the council. "Captain Cole, you will record and transmit the response. Make it clear, make it strong. And Captain," she added, her voice softening slightly, "make sure it's true. If we're going to tell them we'll fight, we need to be ready to actually fight." "Understood, ma'am," Ethan said. Back on the Valiant Horizon, Ethan gathered his senior officers in the briefing room. His executive officer, Commander Sarah Voss, a sharp-eyed woman who had served with him for nearly a decade, looked at him with concern. "You're really going to do this," she said. "You're going to poke a creature 40 kilometers long that just vaporized a space station." "I'm going to tell the truth," Ethan said. "That's all. Whether they listen or not, that part is up to them. And if they don't listen, if they decide to attack us the moment they hear it?" Sarah asked. Ethan looked at her, and for a moment, the weight of command showed clearly on his face. "Then we fight. We fight with what we have, for as long as we can, and we make sure that whatever they take from us, they pay a price for it. But Sarah, I don't think that's what will happen. I think they're testing us. I think how we respond to this warning matters more than they're letting on." The recording was made in the command room of the Valiant Horizon, with Ethan standing in his uniform, the Earth visible in the background through the viewport behind him. He did not use a written script. He spoke from the heart, his voice steady, despite the enormity of what he was doing. "To the ones who call themselves the Kryvex Dominion," he began, "you have delivered your warning to the people of Earth. You have shown us your strength. You have taken innocent lives to prove a point. We heard you. Now hear us. Earth is not simply a planet you can add to your collection. Earth is home to billions of people who have fought through disease, war, hunger, and disaster, and who have always come back stronger. We do not know your power. We do not know the size of your empire, but we know this. If you come here expecting easy surrender, you will be disappointed. If you come here expecting fear alone, you will find something else standing in your way. You will find every man, woman, and child on this world standing together, refusing to bow. We do not want war. We do not seek conflict with anyone, including you. But if war is what you bring to our door, know that you will not walk away from it unchanged. Whatever cost you think conquering Earth will require, know that the true cost will be far greater. This is our warning to you. Choose carefully." The transmission was sent using the same strange frequency the aliens had used, boosted through every relay Earth had in orbit. It took nearly 3 minutes to reach the alien warship, still sitting silent and unmoving past the orbit of Mars. On the bridge of the Valiant Horizon, the entire crew watched the main screen, waiting for a response, waiting for anything. Seconds turned into minutes. Minutes turned into an hour. The alien ship did not move. It did not fire. It did not respond. "Captain," Mira said softly, breaking the silence, "there's a change." The ship's energy signature just spiked. Something's happening. Ethan stood, his eyes locked on the screen, his heart pounding despite his calm exterior. Whatever came next would decide the fate of everyone he had ever known, every person on the small blue world spinning quietly behind them. "Steady," he said, more to himself than to anyone else. "Let's see what they do." The bridge fell silent, every eye fixed on the alien warship as it began, slowly, to move. the alien warship, moved for the first time since it had appeared. On the bridge of the Valiant Horizon, every officer held their breath. Mira Chen watched her sensor readings with wide eyes, calling out numbers as fast as she could process them. "It's not approaching," she said, relief clear in her voice. "It's turning." "Captain, the ship is rotating away from us. Energy signature is dropping. I think it's retreating." Ethan did not relax. He had learned long ago that in moments like this, the danger was never truly over until it was over. "Keep tracking it. I want to know the second anything changes." For the next several hours, the massive alien vessel drifted slowly away from Earth's system, moving toward the outer edge of the solar system. Then, in the same strange way it had arrived, it vanished. No flash of light, no visible tear in space. One moment it was there on every sensor screen, and the next, it simply was not. A cheer went up across parts of Earth as the news spread. People believed, for a brief and fragile moment, that the crisis was over, that the alien ship had been frightened away by humanity's defiance. Ethan knew better. He had spent his life reading the intentions of dangerous enemies, and he understood that creatures capable of building a ship 40 kilometers long did not simply give up because of one speech. "They're not gone," he told his crew during a debrief that evening. "They're regrouping, thinking. Whatever we did today, it surprised them. That doesn't mean it stopped them." His prediction proved correct within a week. Deep space listening posts scattered across the outer solar system began picking up faint signals, not directed at Earth, but leaking from somewhere far beyond Neptune. Whatever the alien ship was doing, it was communicating with something, or someone, much farther away. Earth's Joint Defense Council convened again, this time with representatives from every major nation and space agency joining the discussion. The mood in the room had shifted from panic to grim determination. Whatever fear had gripped humanity in the first hours after the warning had begun to harden into something else. Resolve. "We have to assume this is not over," General Okoye said, addressing the assembled leaders. "Captain Cole's message may have bought us time, but it will not buy us peace. We need to use every moment we have to prepare." It was during this meeting that Ethan first learned the full history of what humanity was truly facing. Earth's deep space telescopes, working around the clock since the alien ship's arrival, had detected faint traces of similar energy signatures scattered across dozens of star systems within 100 light-years of Earth. Patterns emerged that suggested a vast, expanding empire, one that had been slowly absorbing worlds for centuries, perhaps longer. Dr. Amara Singh, the head of Earth's Xenology Research Division, presented the findings. She was a small woman, with sharp eyes and an even sharper mind, known for connecting pieces of evidence that others missed. "Based on the energy trails we've found, we believe the Kryvex Dominion has been expanding for at least 300 years, possibly much longer," she explained, pulling up a star map covered in small red markers. Each of these markers represents a star system where we've detected similar energy patterns. Some of them show signs of former civilizations, cities, infrastructure, all abandoned or destroyed. "You're saying they've done this before," Ethan said. "Many times," Amara confirmed. "The pattern is always the same: a warning, a demonstration of force, a deadline. Compliance results in the population being absorbed into their labor systems. Resistance results in destruction. As far as we can tell, no civilization has ever successfully resisted them and survived intact." The room fell into uneasy silence. Ambassador Fontaine, still skeptical of Ethan's earlier defiance, spoke up first. "Then perhaps the captain's message was a mistake after all. If no one has ever successfully resisted them, what makes us different?" Ethan considered the question carefully before answering. "Maybe nothing makes us different in terms of raw power. We don't have bigger ships. We don't have stronger weapons. But Dr. Singh, in all of this data, has anyone ever done what we did? Has any species ever sent a warning back?" Amara checked her notes, though she already seemed to know the answer. "Not that we've found. Every other pattern we've traced shows either immediate surrender or an immediate, desperate attack that was crushed within hours. No one has ever simply talked back. Not like that. That's why it matters," Ethan said. "We're not going to outgun them. We both know that, but we might be able to outthink them. An empire that has conquered dozens of worlds through fear has probably never had to deal with an opponent who refuses to be afraid. That unpredictability might be the only advantage we have. General Okoye nodded slowly. Then we use it. Captain Cole, I'm putting you in charge of Earth's forward defense strategy. If they come back, you'll be the one meeting them. Ethan felt the weight of that responsibility settle onto his shoulders, heavy, but not unwelcome. He had spent his whole career preparing for moments like this, even if he never truly believed one would come. Over the following weeks, Earth transformed. What had once been a slow, careful process of space development became an all-out global effort. Shipyards that had built one vessel every few months now worked around the clock, building as fast as raw materials and engineering would allow. Nations that had once competed for resources and influence set aside their rivalries, at least for the moment, united by a threat that made old conflicts seem small and unimportant. Ethan spent long hours working with engineers and scientists, trying to find ways to close the massive gap between human technology and whatever the Kryvex Dominion possessed. Dr. Singh's team worked to decode fragments of the alien ship's energy signature, hoping to learn something about how its shields and weapons functioned. Progress was slow, but steady. It was during this time that Ethan met someone who would change the course of everything that followed. A small, unmarked shuttle had drifted into the edge of Earth's solar system, broadcasting no threat, no weapon signature, only a simple request for contact. When Earth's forces intercepted it cautiously, they found something no one expected. Inside was a single passenger, not human, but clearly alive, and clearly desperate. The being called itself Vashti. It belonged to a species known as the Koran, slender, blue-skinned creatures with large, expressive eyes and long, delicate fingers. Vashti had once served as a translator and advisor within the lower ranks of the Kryvex Dominion, working among conquered species who had been absorbed into their labor systems generations ago. Brought aboard the Valiant Horizon under heavy guard, Vashti explained everything through a shaking, careful voice, using a translation device implanted years ago by Dominion engineers. I escaped, Vashti said, sitting in the ship's secure meeting room, watched closely by armed guards. I could not stay any longer. What they plan for your world, I have seen before. I wished to warn you, before it was too late. Ethan studied the alien carefully, aware that this could easily be a trap, a spy sent to gather information under the guise of a defector. But something in Vashti's manner, the exhaustion, the fear, the desperate honesty, felt genuine. Why would you risk your life to warn a species you've never met? Ethan asked. Vashti's large eyes seemed to hold centuries of sorrow. My people were conquered 300 years ago, by your measure of time. We resisted, as your captain did. We lost. Our world was not destroyed, but our freedom was. For 300 years, my people have served the Dominion, working their minds, building their ships, translating their words to new victims. I have watched a dozen worlds fall the same way mine did. I could not watch another. Not when I finally had the chance to do something different. What can you tell us about their fleet? Their weapons? Their weaknesses? General Okoye asked, joining the conversation through a secure video link. Their fleet is vast, Vashti said. The ship that came to your world was a scout vessel, sent ahead to issue the warning and gauge your response. A true invasion fleet is far larger, and it is already being prepared. I do not know exactly when it will arrive, but based on the patterns I witnessed before, I would guess within 2 to 3 of your months. The news landed heavily on everyone in the room. 2 to 3 months to prepare for a fleet capable of conquering entire worlds seemed like an impossible task. But Vashti continued, offering something that gave the room a glimmer of hope. There is one thing that may help you, Vashti said. The Dominion's shields and weapons are powerful, but they were built to fight uniform, predictable enemies. Every species we have observed being conquered fought in similar ways. Massed fleets, direct confrontation, following patterns the Dominion has studied for centuries. Your captain's message, the fact that you did not simply surrender or attack blindly, has already caused confusion within their command structure. I overheard discussions before I left. Some among them argue that Earth should be studied further before an invasion begins. Others argue that any delay shows weakness and should be corrected immediately with overwhelming force. So there's disagreement among them, Ethan said. Yes, Vashti confirmed. And disagreement, in an empire built on the idea of certain victory, can be a weakness if you know how to use it. For the next several weeks, Vashti worked closely with Ethan and his team, sharing everything they knew about Dominion tactics, technology, and command structure. It was slow, careful work, translating alien engineering concepts into something human scientists could understand and adapt. Dr. Singh's team made breakthroughs in shield technology, using fragments of data from the scout ship's energy readings combined with Vashti's knowledge of Dominion systems. Meanwhile, Earth's shipyards produced a new generation of vessels, smaller and faster than anything built before, designed not to match the Dominion ship for ship, but to overwhelm through speed, coordination, and unpredictable tactics. Ethan personally oversaw the training of new crews, drilling them relentlessly in maneuvers designed to exploit whatever weaknesses Vashti's information revealed. Commander Sarah Voss watched the transformation of Earth's fleet with a mixture of pride and worry. "We're moving faster than we ever have," she told Ethan one evening, as they reviewed the latest simulation results. "But is it enough? Even with everything Vashti has told us, we're still talking about a fleet that could be 10 times our size, with technology decades or centuries ahead of ours." Ethan looked at the star charts spread across his desk, at the marked positions of Earth's new defensive formations. "It might not be enough," he admitted, "but it's what we have. And Sarah, sometimes the difference between winning and losing isn't about who has more power. It's about who wants it more, who's willing to do whatever it takes." As the weeks passed, Earth's preparations continued at a furious pace. Diplomats reached out to nearby colonies and outposts, coordinating evacuation plans for civilians, while military planners refined their defensive strategies. Dr. Singh's team, working with Vashti, made a critical discovery: a way to detect the specific energy signature the Dominion used to open their strange, instant travel routes through space, giving Earth's forces vital seconds of warning before any fleet could arrive. It was a small advantage, but in a fight against overwhelming odds, small advantages were all humanity had. Then, one quiet evening nearly 2 months after the scout ship's warning, Earth's early detection systems picked up something new. A massive spike in energy, far beyond anything the scout ship had produced, registering from just beyond the edge of the solar system. Ethan was called to the bridge immediately, still half-dressed, from being woken in the middle of the night. Mira Chen was already at her station, her face pale in the dim light of the bridge. "Captain," she said, her voice tight. "It's them. The main fleet. They're here." Ethan looked at the screen, at the wall of energy signatures now appearing at the edge of sensor range. More ships than Earth's fleet had ever faced combined. The moment they had spent months preparing for had finally arrived. "Sound the alert," Ethan said quietly, his voice steady despite the storm building in his chest. "All hands to battle stations. This is not a drill." Across Earth, sirens began to wail, waking a planet that had spent 2 months hoping this day would never come. The fleet that appeared at the edge of the solar system was larger than anything Earth had ever imagined. Sensor readings counted over 200 vessels, ranging from small strike craft to massive capital ships, nearly half the size of the original scout vessel. They moved together in tight, disciplined formation, a wall of dark metal and glowing purple light stretching across the void. On the bridge of the Valiant horizon, Ethan watched the tactical display with a calm he did not entirely feel. Around him, his crew moved with practiced efficiency, every station manned, every system ready. Months of preparation had led to this single moment. "Captain," Mira said, "long-range scans show the fleet is holding position just past Neptune's orbit. They're not advancing yet." "They're giving us one more chance," Vashti said quietly from where she stood near the command chair. She had insisted on being present for this moment, despite the danger. It is their way. One final demonstration of overwhelming force, to see if fear alone will end this before it truly begins. Ethan nodded slowly. He had expected this. It matched everything Vashti had told them about Dominion tactics. He opened a channel to Earth Command. "General Okoye, they're holding position. I believe they're waiting for our response before committing to a full attack." Okoye's voice came back steady and clear. "Then let's give them a response they won't forget, Captain. Defensive Plan Sigma is authorized. Good luck." Ethan turned to his crew. "You all know the plan. We're not fighting this battle the way they expect. We're not lining up ship to ship and trading fire until one side breaks. We fight smart, we fight fast, and we make every shot count. Helm, take us to forward position Alpha." The Valiant Horizon, along with 40 of Earth's newest and fastest vessels, moved into position at the edge of the asteroid belt, using the scattered rocks and debris as natural cover. It was a strategy born from months of study, exploiting one of the few weaknesses Vashti had identified. The Dominion's targeting systems, while powerful, relied heavily on clear lines of sight and predictable enemy movement. A cluttered, chaotic battlefield would make their overwhelming firepower harder to use effectively. For nearly an hour, nothing happened. The Dominion fleet held its position, seemingly assessing the situation, perhaps surprised that Earth had not simply gathered its ships in a doomed, straightforward defense. Then, without warning, a portion of the fleet broke off, nearly 30 vessels, and began moving toward Earth. "Here they come," Ethan said. "All ships, hold formation, let them come to us." The Dominion strike force moved with terrifying speed, closing the distance far faster than Earth's own ships could have managed. As they entered weapons range, the lead vessels opened fire, unleashing beams of concentrated energy toward the scattered human fleet hiding among the asteroids. "Shields holding," Sarah called out from her station. But barely. That first hit took out 15% of forward shields in one shot. "Return fire. Spread pattern Delta," Ethan ordered. Human ships opened fire in a coordinated pattern, dozens of smaller weapons combining their fire onto single targets, rather than spreading damage thin across many enemies. It was a tactic borrowed from ancient naval warfare, concentrating firepower to overwhelm a single point of defense, rather than attacking broadly. The first Dominion strike craft to take concentrated fire staggered, its shields flickering rapidly, before finally collapsing. A second volley tore through its hull, and the ship broke apart in a silent flash of light. A cheer went up briefly on the bridge, before Ethan cut it short. "Stay focused. That's one ship. They have hundreds more." The battle raged on, chaotic and brutal. Human ships darted between asteroids, using the debris field to break enemy targeting locks, striking quickly before retreating into cover. The Dominion forces, accustomed to enemies who fought in open, predictable formations, struggled to adapt to the erratic, guerrilla-style tactics Earth's fleet employed. Still, the cost was high. Ethan watched with a tight jaw as 3 human vessels were destroyed in quick succession, their crews lost in an instant. Each loss felt like a physical blow, but he forced himself to stay focused on the larger battle, knowing that hesitation now would only lead to greater losses. "Captain," Mira called out, "I'm reading a shift in their formation. They're adapting. Some of their ships are pulling back, regrouping into smaller, more mobile units." "They're learning," Vashti said grimly. "It will not take them long to counter your tactics once they understand them." Ethan knew she was right. Earth's advantage lay in surprise and unpredictability, and that advantage would not last forever. "Helm, prepare for Phase 2. Signal all ships to execute Maneuver Foxtrot on my mark." The human fleet, still scattered among the asteroids, began converging toward a single point, drawing the pursuing Dominion ships into a tighter formation as they gave chase. It was a calculated risk, deliberately appearing to retreat in order to lure the enemy into a trap. "Steady," Ethan said, watching the Dominion ships close in, exactly as planned. "Wait for it." As the pursuing enemy fleet entered the dense center of the asteroid field, Ethan gave the order, "Now, detonate the charges." Hidden among the asteroids, planted during the weeks of preparation, dozens of powerful explosive charges detonated simultaneously, sending massive chunks of rock hurtling through the enemy formation at incredible speed. Unlike energy weapons, which could be deflected or absorbed by shields, raw kinetic force from tons of asteroid debris proved far harder to defend against. Several Dominion ships were struck directly, their hulls crumpling under the impact, while others were forced to scatter, breaking their tight formation entirely. "Direct hits confirmed on 12 enemy vessels," Mira reported, excitement creeping into her exhausted voice. 6 destroyed outright, 6 others showing critical damage. "Press the advantage," Ethan ordered. "All ships, target the damaged vessels. Take them down before they can regroup." The tide of the battle shifted, if only briefly. Human ships moved through the chaos, picking off wounded enemy vessels before they could recover from the surprise attack. For the first time since the battle began, it seemed as though Earth's forces might actually hold their ground. But the Dominion fleet, despite its losses, still vastly outnumbered Earth's defenders. Slowly, Methodically, the surviving enemy ships began to reorganize, adapting their tactics to counter the asteroid field's advantages. Larger vessels moved to the flanks, using their superior firepower to clear paths through the debris, while smaller, more agile ships pursued the scattered human fleet directly. "Captain, we're taking heavy fire," Sarah reported. "Shields at 40% and dropping." Ethan gripped the arms of his command chair, watching the tactical display as more human ships fell under the renewed enemy assault. The battle had bought them time, inflicted real damage, but it was becoming clear that even their best tactics would not be enough to hold back the full might of the Dominion strike force indefinitely. "Captain," Vashti said urgently, "I recognize that formation. They are preparing to use a weapon designed specifically to counter defensive tactics like yours, a wide-area energy pulse, capable of disabling multiple ships at once, regardless of cover." "How long until they can fire it?" Ethan asked. "Minutes, perhaps less," Vashti said. Ethan's mind raced, searching for any option that might save his fleet from what was coming. Then an idea struck him, born from desperation but grounded in everything he had learned about the enemy's tactics over the past months. "Sarah, patch me through to all ships, fleet-wide channel," he said. "Channel open, Captain." "All ships, this is Captain Cole. We're not going to outlast that pulse weapon if we stay scattered. I need every ship to converge on my position immediately. Tightest formation possible, shields interlocked. We're going to combine our shield output into a single unified barrier, strong enough to absorb that pulse when it hits." "Captain, that's incredibly risky," Sarah said quietly. "Off the open channel. If even one ship's shields fail during the pulse, it could cause a cascade failure across the entire formation." "I know," Ethan said, "but scattered, we're dead anyway. Together, we have a chance." Across the battlefield, human ships began converging, moving with desperate speed toward the Valiant Horizon's position. It was a bold, dangerous maneuver, leaving them vulnerable during the transition. But Ethan trusted his crews, trusted the months of training that had prepared them for moments exactly like this one. As the Dominion vessels charged their pulse weapon, a massive buildup of energy visible even from a distance, Earth's fleet completed its formation just in time, shields overlapping and reinforcing one another into a single, unified defense. "Brace for impact," Ethan called out. The pulse fired, a wave of pure energy washing over the human fleet in an instant. The Valiant Horizon shuddered violently, alarms blaring across every station as the combined shields strained under the tremendous force. For a terrifying moment, it seemed as though the barrier might collapse entirely. Then, slowly, the shaking subsided. The pulse passed, dissipating into the surrounding space, and Earth's fleet, battered but intact, remained standing. "Report," Ethan called out, his voice tight with tension. "We held," Mira said, disbelief clear in her voice. "Shields at 12% fleet-wide, but we held, Captain. Every ship still active." A murmur of relief swept through the bridge, but Ethan knew the danger was far from over. The Dominion fleet, having expended significant energy on their pulse weapon, seemed to hesitate, likely surprised that their attack had failed to break Earth's defenses entirely. "Captain," Vashti said, staring at the tactical display with wide, astonished eyes, "I have never seen a species survive that weapon before. Not once, in 300 years of records." Ethan allowed himself a brief moment of relief, before turning his attention back to the battle. "We're not out of this yet. What's their next move likely to be?" Vashti studied the shifting Dominion formation carefully. I believe they may withdraw. This engagement has cost them far more than anticipated, both in ships and in expended resources. Dominion commanders are cautious by nature, unwilling to risk further losses without reporting back to higher command first." As if confirming her words, the surviving Dominion vessels began to pull back, reforming their ranks and retreating toward the main fleet still positioned at the edge of the solar system. Earth's battered but victorious defenders watched them go, too exhausted and too aware of their own losses to celebrate openly. "Captain," Sarah said quietly, "we lost 11 ships today, over 300 crew members." Ethan felt the weight of those numbers settle heavily on his shoulders. Victory, if it could even be called that, had come at a steep price. "I know," he said softly. "We'll honor them. But right now, we need to prepare for what comes next." This was just the probing attack. The real invasion fleet is still out there, and now they know exactly what we're capable of. Vashti nodded grimly. Yes, Captain. And I fear that knowledge will only make their next attack far more dangerous than this one. As the Dominion strike force retreated into the darkness of space, Ethan stared out at the stars, knowing that the true battle for Earth's survival had only just begun. In the days after the battle at the asteroid belt, Earth mourned its dead while preparing for what everyone now understood was an inevitable second strike. News of the victory, if it could be called that, spread across the planet, giving people a fragile sense of hope even as memorial services were held for the hundreds of crew members lost in the fighting. Captain Ethan Cole became a name known across the globe, though he took little comfort in the attention, focused instead on the mounting challenge ahead. Earth Command estimated that the main Dominion invasion fleet, still gathered at the edge of the solar system, numbered close to 500 vessels, dwarfing the strike force Earth had already fought off. Vashti's intelligence suggested the Dominion commanders were now taking humanity seriously as a threat, which meant the next attack would come with far greater caution and far greater force. They will not underestimate us again, Vashti explained during a strategy session aboard the Valiant Horizon, now repaired and refitted after the battle. The commanders who led the failed strike force will have reported back in detail. Expect their next assault to account for everything we did. Asteroid cover will be less effective. They will not gather in tight formations vulnerable to concentrated fire. They will adapt. Ethan studied the star chart spread across the table, his mind working through countless scenarios. Then we need to adapt faster than they do. Dr. Singh, what's the status on the shield technology? Dr. Amara Singh, looking exhausted but determined, pulled up a series of technical readouts. We've made progress reverse engineering fragments of Dominion shield technology from the wreckage we recovered. It's not perfect, but we've managed to increase our fleet's shield capacity by nearly 30%. Combined with the interlocking shield tactic you used during the battle, it should give us a meaningful edge. It's a start, Ethan said. What about offensive capabilities? That's where things get more difficult, Amara admitted. Our weapons are still far weaker than theirs individually. The concentrated fire tactic worked against smaller strike craft, but against their capital ships, we'd need significantly more firepower to break through their shields. It was during this tense period of preparation that unexpected help arrived from an unlikely source. Deep space listening posts detected a small convoy of ships approaching from beyond the outer solar system, broadcasting on a frequency similar to the one Vashti's shuttle had used. When Earth's forces intercepted the convoy cautiously, they discovered representatives from 3 other species, all former victims of Dominion conquest, all seeking to make contact with the first world in recorded history to successfully resist a Dominion invasion force. The delegation included members of the Faroon, a hardy reptilian species known for their engineering skill, and the Olith, a small, insect-like race with an extraordinary understanding of energy systems, both of whom had been conquered by the Dominion generations ago, but had never fully given up hope of eventual freedom. Word of your victory has spread through the underground networks that exist within Dominion territory, explained Kessa, the leader of the Faroon delegation, speaking through a translation device during a meeting aboard Earth's orbital command station. For centuries, we have waited for a sign that resistance is possible. Your battle at the edge of your solar system has given many of us hope for the first time in generations. We're not looking to start a rebellion across an entire empire, Ethan said carefully. We're just trying to protect our own world. Perhaps, Kessa said, but your fight has already become something larger than that, whether you intended it or not. We have come to offer what help we can. Knowledge of Dominion technology. Tactical information passed down through generations of resistance movements. Even physical resources, smuggled out through networks the Dominion has never fully managed to eliminate. General Okoye, present at the meeting, exchanged a look with Ethan. What kind of resources are we talking about? Over the following hours, the delegation revealed the true scope of what they were offering. The Olith, masters of energy manipulation, provided detailed schematics for improving weapon output far beyond what Earth's scientists had managed on their own. The Faroon, skilled engineers, offered blueprints for reinforcing ship hulls using techniques developed over centuries of quietly working within Dominion shipyards, learning the Empire's own construction methods well enough to improve upon them in secret. It was not a solution to every problem Earth faced, but it was a lifeline, arriving at exactly the moment humanity needed it most. Dr. Singh's team worked around the clock with their new allies, integrating alien technology with human engineering in ways that produced results far beyond what either species could have achieved alone. 3 weeks after the delegation's arrival, Earth's fleet had been transformed. Weapon output across the fleet had increased by nearly 60%, thanks to Olith energy modulation techniques. Hull integrity had improved dramatically, incorporating Pharaon reinforcement methods that made ships far more resistant to the kind of concentrated fire that had proven so devastating in the previous battle. Still, Ethan knew that even these improvements would not be enough to guarantee victory against a fleet nearly 10 times the size of what they had already fought. The mathematics of the situation remained grim, no matter how much technology improved. "We need a strategy that doesn't rely purely on strength," Ethan said during a late-night planning session with his senior officers and the alien delegation. "Even with all these improvements, we're still outnumbered and outgunned. We need something that changes the equation entirely." Vashti, who had been quiet for much of the discussion, spoke up. "There may be one option. It is dangerous, and it has never been attempted before, not that I am aware of, but it could change everything." "I'm listening," Ethan said. "The Dominion fleet operates under a centralized command structure," Vashti explained. "Every strike force, every strategic decision, flows through a single command vessel, the flagship of whichever commander leads the invasion. If that vessel were to be disabled or destroyed, the entire fleet would be thrown into confusion. Dominion military doctrine does not train subordinate commanders to operate independently. They rely entirely on centralized leadership." "You're suggesting we target the flagship directly," Sarah said. "In the middle of a battle against 500 ships? It would require extraordinary precision and extraordinary risk," Vashti admitted. "But if successful, it could end the invasion far more quickly than trying to defeat their entire fleet through attrition." Ethan considered the idea carefully. It was audacious, dangerous, and would require flawless execution. But it also offered something the fleet desperately needed: a path to victory that did not simply rely on outlasting an enemy with vastly superior numbers. "Tell me about the flagship," Ethan said. "What do we know about its defenses?" Over the following days, Vashti and the alien delegation worked with Earth's tacticians to develop a plan. The Dominion flagship, based on historical records the delegation had smuggled out over the years, was heavily shielded and always positioned at the center of the fleet formation, surrounded by layers of escort vessels designed to prevent exactly the kind of direct assault Ethan was now planning. "It won't be easy," Kessa warned during one planning session. "Even reaching the flagship would require breaking through multiple layers of defense, and that assumes the flagship's location remains constant throughout the battle, which is not guaranteed." "Nothing about this will be easy," Ethan said. "But if we can pull it off, it changes everything. Instead of trying to defeat 500 ships, we only need to reach one." The plan that emerged over the following weeks was intricate and dangerous, relying on speed, deception, and precise coordination. A small strike force of Earth's fastest, most heavily modified vessels would be tasked with breaking through the Dominion formation during the chaos of battle, using new stealth technology, developed with Olith assistance to mask their approach until the last possible moment. Meanwhile, the bulk of Earth's fleet would engage the main Dominion force directly, creating enough chaos and distraction to give the strike team a chance to reach their target. Ethan chose to lead the strike team personally, despite objections from several of his senior officers who worried about the risk to Earth's most experienced commander. "If this fails, Earth needs someone else ready to lead," Sarah argued during a private conversation in Ethan's quarters. "You can't be the one taking this risk." "That's exactly why it has to be me," Ethan said. "I won't ask anyone to take a risk I'm not willing to take myself. Besides, I've studied Vashti's information more closely than anyone else on this ship. If there's a chance to make this work, I need to be there to make the calls in real time." Sarah didn't fully agree, but she understood the weight of his decision. "Then I'm coming with you," she said firmly. "You're not doing this without your XO by your side." Ethan allowed himself a small, tired smile. Wouldn't have it any other way. As preparations for the coming battle reached their final stages, Earth's early detection systems picked up unmistakable signs that the main Dominion invasion fleet was preparing to move. Energy signatures across the entire enemy formation began spiking simultaneously, a clear indication that the long-feared assault was finally about to begin. "Captain," Mira reported, her voice tense, "the Dominion fleet is on the move. Based on their current trajectory and speed, they'll reach Earth's orbital defense line within 6 hours." Ethan stood on the bridge of the Valiant Horizon, looking out at the assembled might of Earth's defense fleet, now reinforced with alien technology and desperate hope. 6 hours remained before humanity's fate would be decided, one way or another. "All ships, this is Captain Cole," he said, opening a fleet-wide channel. "This is the moment we've been preparing for. I won't pretend the odds are in our favor, they're not. But we've already proven something the Dominion never expected, that fear alone cannot conquer a people determined to remain free. Whatever happens in the hours ahead, know that you're fighting not just for Earth, but for every world across this galaxy, still waiting for a sign that resistance is possible." He paused, looking out at the stars, at the distant, glowing shape of the approaching Dominion fleet, a wall of dark ships stretching further than the eye could see. "Stand ready," he said quietly. "This ends today, one way or another." Across the fleet, crews prepared for battle, checking systems one final time, saying silent prayers, thinking of loved ones on the world below. The largest battle in human history was about to begin, and everything humanity had built, fought for, and sacrificed over the past 3 months would be tested in the hours that followed. As the Dominion fleet drew closer, its massive shape filling more and more of Earth's sensor displays, Ethan took his seat in the command chair, his eyes fixed on the tactical display, his mind calm despite the storm gathering just beyond the edge of the solar system. "Here they come," he said softly, as the first wave of Dominion ships crossed into engagement range, and the battle for Earth's survival finally began. The battle began with a wall of fire lighting up the darkness of space. 500 Dominion ships surged forward in tight, disciplined formation, their weapons unleashing wave after wave of energy against Earth's assembled fleet. Human ships, reinforced with Olith and Faroon technology, met the assault with everything they had, shields holding under the tremendous barrage, weapons striking back with far greater force than the Dominion had encountered in their previous engagement. On the bridge of the Valiant Horizon, Ethan watched the tactical display with fierce concentration, coordinating the fleet's movements with practiced precision. "All ships, maintain formation Bravo, concentrate fire on their lead elements. Don't let them establish a firing solution on our support vessels." Around him, the bridge crew worked with the calm efficiency of months of training, every officer focused on their task, despite the chaos unfolding on the screens before them. Explosions bloomed silently in the vacuum of space as both sides traded devastating blows, human ships weaving through the Dominion formation, using tactics the enemy had not yet learned to counter, while Dominion capital ships unleashed their superior firepower against anything that lingered too long in their sights. "Captain, we're holding the line, but barely," Sarah reported, her voice tight with tension. "Enemy numbers are simply too great. We're losing ships faster than we can adapt." Ethan knew she was right. Despite every improvement, every tactic, every piece of alien technology integrated into Earth's fleet, the sheer size of the Dominion invasion force was beginning to tell. Ship by ship, Earth's defenses were being worn down. "It's time," Ethan said, his voice steady, despite the weight of the moment. "Strike team, prepare to move." The strike team, a group of 12 heavily modified vessels including the Valiant Horizon, broke away from the main formation, using Olith stealth technology to mask their approach as they moved toward the heart of the Dominion fleet. Ethan had transferred tactical command of the main fleet to General Okoye, aboard Earth's secondary command vessel, trusting her to hold the line, while he led the desperate gamble that might end the battle entirely. "Vashti, confirm the flagship's position," Ethan said, his eyes fixed on the sensor display. "Confirmed," Vashti replied from her station beside Mira. "It remains at the center of the formation, exactly as predicted. Distance, approximately 200,000 kilometers. Heavy escort presence surrounding it." "Then that's where we're going," Ethan said. "Helm, plot a course through the gaps in their formation. Use every bit of cover the battle gives us." The strike team moved with careful precision, weaving through the chaos of battle, using the confusion of the larger engagement to slip past Dominion patrols that would have otherwise intercepted them immediately. Explosions lit up the darkness around them as they pushed deeper into enemy territory, each passing minute bringing them closer to their target, and closer to potential discovery. "Captain, we've been spotted," Mira called out urgently. "Multiple enemy vessels adjusting course to intercept." "Evasive maneuvers, full power to forward shields," Ethan ordered. "We're not stopping now." The strike team pressed forward, exchanging fire with the intercepting Dominion vessels as they fought their way closer to the flagship. 2 of Earth's 12 strike ships were lost in the fierce exchange, their crews giving everything they had to buy the remaining vessels precious seconds needed to reach their target. Ethan felt each loss like a physical blow, but he forced himself to remain focused, knowing that stopping now would make their sacrifice meaningless. "Flagship in visual range," Mira announced as the massive Dominion command vessel finally came into view, larger even than the original scout ship, its dark hull glowing with pulsing lines of purple energy. "All ships, target the flagship's primary shield generators," Ethan ordered, having studied Vashti's intelligence extensively over the preceding weeks. "Concentrate everything we have on that single point." The remaining strike team vessels opened fire in perfect coordination, focusing every available weapon on the precise location Vashti had identified as the flagship's primary vulnerability. The Dominion command vessel's shields flared brightly under the concentrated assault, straining against the combined firepower, in a way they had likely never been tested before. "Shields weakening," Mira called out, excitement and tension mixing in her voice. 20%. 15%. Suddenly, the flagship's escort vessels, realizing the danger too late, began converging on the strike team's position, weapons blazing as they attempted to drive off the attackers before their shields could be fully breached. "Hold position," Ethan ordered, gripping the arms of his command chair as the valiant horizon shuddered under incoming fire. "We're almost through." "Shields at 5%, Mira reported, her voice barely audible over the alarms now blaring across the bridge. "Captain, one more volley should do it." "Fire everything we have left," Ethan commanded. The strike team unleashed a final, desperate barrage, every remaining weapon system firing simultaneously at the flagship's failing shields. For a moment, nothing happened, the massive vessel seeming to absorb the attack without consequence. Then, with a brilliant flash of light, the flagship's shields collapsed entirely, leaving the massive command vessel exposed and vulnerable for the first time in the battle. "Shields down," Mira shouted. "Captain, we have a clear shot. Target their main reactor core," Ethan ordered immediately. "Everyone, fire now." The strike team's remaining vessels concentrated their fire on the flagship's exposed hull, weapons tearing through armor plating that had never been designed to withstand direct assault. Deep within the massive vessel, critical systems began failing under the sustained attack, explosions rippling across its surface as internal damage spread rapidly through the ship's structure. Then, with a final, massive explosion that lit up the darkness of space like a second sun, the Dominion flagship broke apart entirely, its destruction sending shockwaves rippling through the surrounding battlefield. For a moment, silence fell across the strike team's communication channels, everyone stunned by what they had just accomplished. Then, as the shockwave from the flagship's destruction faded, something remarkable began happening across the wider battlefield. "Captain, look at this," Mira said, pulling up a wide-angle view of the entire engagement. "The Dominion fleet, they're breaking formation. It's chaos out there." Just as Vashti had predicted, the destruction of the flagship threw the entire Dominion invasion force into disarray. Without centralized command, subordinate vessels struggled to coordinate their attacks, some pulling back defensively, others continuing to fight without clear direction, their formations breaking apart entirely as confusion spread through the fleet. Earth's main forces, sensing the shift in momentum, pressed their advantage immediately. General Okoye's voice came through on the fleet-wide channel, filled with fierce determination. "All ships, the enemy formation is broken. Press the attack. Target isolated vessels. Don't let them regroup." The tide of battle turned decisively in humanity's favor. Without the flagship's guidance, Dominion vessels became easy targets for Earth's coordinated attacks, their once overwhelming numbers now working against them as confusion turned into retreat. Ship by ship, the invasion force began withdrawing, breaking away from the battle entirely, as it became clear that continuing the fight without centralized command was hopeless. Within 2 hours of the flagship's destruction, the last remaining Dominion vessels retreated entirely, vanishing back into deep space, using the same strange method of travel that had first brought them to Earth's solar system. The battle, against all odds, was over. Earth had won. On the bridge of the Valiant Horizon, badly damaged but still standing, Ethan allowed himself a long, exhausted breath as the reality of what they had accomplished began to sink in. Around him, his crew erupted into quiet, disbelieving celebration, some crying, others simply staring at the tactical display, unable to fully process the fact that they had survived. "Casualties?" Ethan asked quietly, his voice hoarse with exhaustion. Sarah checked the reports, her own eyes filled with a mixture of grief and relief. "Heavy losses, Captain. We lost nearly a third of our fleet in the main engagement, and 8 of the 12 strike team vessels didn't make it back. But Captain, we won. Earth is safe." Ethan closed his eyes for a moment, thinking of everyone lost in the battle, every sacrifice that had made this victory possible. It was not a clean victory, not one without immense cost, but it was victory nonetheless. In the weeks that followed, the full impact of Earth's victory became clear. Word of the battle spread rapidly throughout Dominion territory, carried by the same underground networks that had first brought Vashti and the alien delegation to Earth's aid. For the first time in centuries, a species had not only resisted Dominion conquest, but had decisively defeated an invasion force, destroying their flagship and forcing a full retreat. The effects rippled outward across dozens of conquered worlds. Small acts of resistance, long suppressed by fear of Dominion retaliation, began emerging across the Empire, inspired by Earth's example. Vashti, watching the reports with quiet emotion, turned to Ethan during a private meeting aboard the Valiant Horizon. "You may not fully understand what you have done," she said softly. "For 300 years, my people, and countless others, believed resistance was hopeless. You have shown an entire empire that the Dominion can be defeated. That alone may change everything, for worlds far beyond your own." Ethan considered her words carefully. He had never set out to start a rebellion across an alien empire. He had simply wanted to protect his own world, his own people. But he understood now that Earth's fight had become something larger, a symbol of hope for countless others who had lived too long under the shadow of Dominion rule. A memorial service was held on Earth several weeks after the battle, honoring the thousands of lives lost defending the planet. Ethan stood before the gathered crowd, still in uniform, his voice steady, despite the weight of grief that lingered in his heart. "We did not choose this fight," he said, addressing not just the crowd before him, but the entire world watching from home. "It was brought to our door, uninvited, by an enemy who believed we would simply bow to fear. We proved them wrong, but that victory came at a terrible cost. We honor those we lost today, not with sorrow alone, but with the promise that their sacrifice will not be forgotten, and that Earth will remain free, for as long as we have breath to defend it." In the months that followed, Earth entered a new chapter in its history, no longer an isolated world unaware of the vast dangers and possibilities beyond its own solar system, but a recognized power among the stars, allied with species who had once believed freedom was nothing more than a distant memory. Ships from the Faroon and Olith worlds began arriving regularly, exchanging knowledge and resources as humanity worked to rebuild and strengthen its defenses against the possibility of future threats. The Dominion, badly shaken by the loss of one of its most powerful fleets and the growing unrest spreading through its conquered territories, did not attempt another invasion of Earth. Whether out of caution, internal disarray, or simple reassessment of priorities, the Empire turned its attention elsewhere, leaving Earth to grow and strengthen in relative peace. Ethan Cole, hailed as a hero across the world, remained humble about his role in the victory, always quick to credit the sacrifice of every crew member who had fought alongside him, the courage of allies like Vashti, who had risked everything to help a world not their own, and the resilience of humanity as a whole, a species that had once again proven, against overwhelming odds, that it would not simply bow to fear. Standing on the observation deck of the newly repaired Valiant Horizon, looking out at the stars that had once seemed so distant and unknown, Ethan reflected on everything that had happened since that fateful day when an alien warship first appeared at the edge of the solar system. Earth had been warned, Earth had answered, And in doing so, humanity had taken its first true step into a galaxy far larger, far more dangerous, and far more wondrous than anyone had ever imagined. The warning had been sent. The warning had been returned. And Earth, against all odds, still stood.